this up.
Hello, everybody. It's Sandra Lee with Tuning Up to Thrive Conversations. Today, I have my delightful friend, Kristi Sullivan, and she and I are co-authors in a book that we are going to talk a little bit about. Kristi is a human design and self-care expert, speaker, and lead author of the best-selling Amazon book, Stop Overworking and Start Overflowing, 25 Ways to Transform Your Life Using Human Design. It was such a fun project to be part of. She hosts a virtual community for spiritually minded females to create better wellness, improve relationships, shift mindsets, and manifest more success, wealth, and freedom. Who wants that? To live their best life by design. Kristi teaches workshops and conferences internationally, both in person and virtually, and has been featured on more than 100 podcasts and dozens of events. She has also contributed to 6 anthologies, has been a certified yoga instructor for nearly 2 decades, and became a full-time sole professional in 2020 after more than 25 years as a marketing and communications expert. There will be information on how to connect with Kristi in the comments. So welcome, Kristi. So nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sandra. It's wonderful to be here and share space with you.
Yeah. So what would you like to start sharing with people?
Well, let's start with their book, this wonderful book that we brought us together, because before that, we didn't really know each other, yet we have this common theme in place, which is human design. And we separately discovered that. I'm sure I could tell my story a little bit about that. But when I was deciding to produce a book on human design, I didn't know very many people who were practicing it or doing it as I was in my community. So I had to go out and kind of search for folks. And then one person maybe led me to another. I was looking on social media, and I think somebody introduced us, and we had a conversation about this book idea. And you, along with 25 others, said yes to doing a chapter. And I also remember, it may not have been you, but I know a couple of manifestors who were in the book. One in particular said, well, you need to have a manifestor in the book. So it was so wonderful to have you part of the book. You said yes. It came out 2 years ago now, just this month. And so from that, we became friends. You have met other people that I've known, and we've crossed other paths. So it's just been so wonderful.
Yeah, being part of the book community that's not just our book, but other books, and being part of multiple books, it's been really fun to get to know a bunch of people. And had I not been in this book, I wouldn't have connected with that wider community, and I really love it.
Yeah, so great.
So let's talk a little bit about stress and how we can manage stress, because I know that's one of your specialties.
Yeah, well, I before human design, I had spent many years and still teach yoga, but other years discovering wellness and the mind, body, spirit connection. I always really had an interest in health and well-being. And so for me, I know the importance of having not just a healthy body, but also the mind and the spirit. So when these last few years, as I have been writing in several books and speaking, one area in particular really is an area I like to talk about called, and it's a self-care. And this is a hot topic a lot of people are talking about, but self-care just is so important because now more than ever, it's about us keeping that mind, body, and spirit healthy, as well as optimizing it. There's so much going on, so much stress that self-care is more important than ever these days. Of course, we've heard the analogy of the oxygen mask, and it's so important to put that oxygen mask on yourself.
So tell us a little bit more about the specifics of how you do that.
Yeah, so I used to give a talk about how I think there are three kind of categories of self-care. And one that we're very familiar with when we are first really diving into, how does self-care help us? What's the type of self-care that we need? We will do things like New Year's resolutions or have this intention of like, oh, I need to eat healthier. Let me make it a goal this month to do better and to eat better foods or get better sleep or exercise more. So I call that sort of level one, where we're dipping our toes into this idea of making shifts in our life. And we may do it for a short period of time. We sometimes may not stay on the wagon, so to speak. We know around January, we have a lot of people doing New Year's resolutions, and within a month, they're broken or not following it as strictly as they had hoped. And that's okay, because I again call that dipping the toe in the water. I think the more that we make it a habit and get past those 30 days or 60, maybe 90 days of making it a habit, more of a daily routine, then that I call level two, where you're doing regular, consistent daily self-care. You know that it needs to be eating for the majority of the week really well, or sleeping, getting good sleep. And once in a while, you might not be doing that. There might be a vacation here or there, or a weekend where you're sleeping in or going to bed later. But it's more daily and consistent. The third level I call is really life changing and shifting. And that's when you're not only doing daily self care and practices that are helpful for your well being, but you're even going deeper into things like self limiting beliefs, thought patterns, mindset work, also helping to heal maybe past trauma or experiences. And that sometimes even takes working with a practitioner, but that more of that inner self care work. And that's where things really, I think, can help us nowadays in really dealing with some of these challenges that come up that are not going to go away in life. Life is not going to suddenly be so easy and effortless that we have no challenges or stress. Stress exists, but it's how do we overcome that in a way that doesn't, knock us down, or where we can stay grounded. And I think that third level of that inner self care is really important.
So, Kristi, let's talk about human design and how it plays into that, because both of us do human design, and get a little bit into conditioning and how this impacts this whole picture you're talking about.
Yeah, and tying it to some of the self-care, when I, in the last few years, really had some changes happening in my life or shifts, I had discovered human design, or it crossed my path in the right time. And I use that tool, so human design, to really learn more about myself and some of that inner work that we were just talking about. So the idea is that we have this natural way of being, um, sort of an aligned energy. How we're born with this human design kind of can shift over time if we're introducing programming and conditioning from others. Human design is who we are at the core, but all the other layers are sort of life experiences and things we've been taught. And some of the conditioning may work for us, but some of it may not. Some of it may lead to that self limiting belief. Some of that may lead to blocks in our mindset, or ideas of doing things a way that other people taught us to, but that really aren't in alignment with our natural way, our natural energy, and that human design. So it's so important, if you're doing some of that inner self care, to really take notice of perhaps even using human design as a tool to understand how you're naturally built, how you're naturally wired, and what's the conditioning that might be going against that or might be have maybe taught you to do things in a different way. For example, with me, I grew up with an Eastern European family lineage, and their mantra was work hard. And you just have to, if you want to make a business, as I've been doing the last 3 years, really have to hustle and grind. And that's really not in alignment with my generator type energy, which is here to respond. It's here to work, but in a way that's more effortless and easy because my energy wants to respond to things. If I'm trying to work hard and initiate and make it happen, um, it doesn't happen as easily. And so, really, that conditioning of work hard can lead me to something like burnout, overwhelm, or frustration. And each type in human design sort of has these indicators that can help you understand that conditioning and how to again take better care of yourself and your energy to be in alignment with who you truly are.
That's a wonderful illustration of the difference that human design can make and understanding your design can make. Do you have another example of a client perhaps whose life you made a difference in through helping them understand their human design?
Definitely. I hear just at one level, a lot of people that I talk to human design about and give readings, they say to me, "Oh, this is so refreshing and so validating. I'm so glad I hear this because, for example, if they are not the generator type, and that means that they don't have consistent workforce and life force like the busy bees generators are. They need more downtime. And for someone to hear that, they're so grateful that they know they can take rest or let's say a midday nap and not push themselves. And again, if they're pushing themselves, it would lead to things like burnout or overwhelm. So I've heard, numerous clients talk about that. I've heard other clients who, when they are more in the flow of their energy, they have improved relationships. Their mindset obviously is changing and much more positive or grounded. I've seen clients also make more money and by doing less because they're not working overly too hard. They're not overworking, as we call it in the book. They are suddenly now in this flow, this overflow, and money is showing up for them because they're in alignment with their energy. So that's a big thing that I see.
In my chapter in the book, one of the things I talked about is how there's a problem that I see myself having in my life. And human design helps me realize, oh, this isn't a problem. This is actually part of my gift. And changing how I think about things I don't like about who I am or the way I am. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that reminds me of really one of the aspects that I love about human design is the idea that when you know more of who you are and there's nothing that shows that this is wrong or this needs to be changed. Like you said, it's not a problem. It's about honoring more of who you are, honoring yourself, honoring both sides, the maybe shadow and the light, maybe you call it the positive and negative of certain aspects of who we are. Those are still sort of labels, but really it's not about, again, right or wrong, but about honoring yourself fully. So when things show up that might have seemed like a problem before, you can um, pinpoint it maybe to something within your design that's part of the experience that you're meant to be having and to use it as maybe a lesson or even a stepping stone for the next place that you're going. The other thing I think of is also how human design teaches us that the mind is not the best place for decision making. So sometimes we always go to this idea that, oh, it's a problem. I have to figure it out. And it's not something that really has to be figured out. It's not necessarily again a problem, but something that's come up on our path that gives us the opportunity to make a choice using what we in human design call the authority, using your inner guidance rather than the mind.
So, how would somebody take what they learn about their human design and apply it in their life when it comes to self care?
So learning about your human design, and I've got an acronym I call FLOW that I'll explain. I think this can be helpful, but the first letter is F, and that's for find your design. Understand what your energy type is, the strategy for that energy, and what we call that inner decision making authority. Those three key pieces can be so, again, validating and insightful. And learning about that starts to really help you embrace again more of who you are. So find out your design. Then the L is to love yourself, your self care. And that's honoring who you are, but also working on that inner self care to optimize your well being, to continue that journey of just learning more of who you are and loving that person that you are and that energy being that you are. The O stands for overcoming conditioning. So maybe working with a practitioner or learning more about human design and what is conditioned and what do you need to release or shift for yourself in that conditioned state. And then the W is to continue working in the design. So if you follow those steps and again, just learn a little bit about your design, do your self care, dress conditioned states, and we all want that ability to kind of release some of those things that are limiting us. And then the W is continuing to work and do this every day. I think those are some great tips for using human design and blending it with self care.
That's wonderful. And I think our audience might not know what some of the terms that you used mean. So tell me more about what conditioning is and why it's so impactful, both on people's life before they understand design, and then the difference that it makes understanding human design in dismantling this conditioning piece.
Sure. So, as I said earlier, like human design is who you are at your core. And then you have all these other layers based on life experiences, or maybe even things that were passed down in your lineage from ancestors. So, in those layers, sometimes there's programming from what we've been taught, like that work hard mentality that I adopted. It doesn't mean that that's going to serve me. So, that is a conditioned state because somebody passed down this idea of working hard. It can come from not just our family, but it can come from school and from even media or marketing messages that we hear. So it's something we're adopting that is a layer and may not, sometimes conditioning can be very helpful, but sometimes it may not be helpful and it may impede or limit who we are and our capacity to really just accept ourselves for who we are and also to overcome some of those problem states that we think are problems when really they're not. So that conditioning is more around mindset programs or thoughts, beliefs that we hold, and some of them may be self-limiting. It may also be based from experiences that we've had in life, experiences where maybe somebody criticized us or spoke badly to us, and we've embraced that as like a trigger or trauma for ourselves. So that's what conditioning could be, and it comes in many different forms.
So, one of the things that I work a lot with is limiting beliefs, things that I believe about life, about how I am myself, health, and relationships, all of the things that are affecting my ability to do what I want to do in a limiting way are limiting beliefs. These all come based on experiences from the past. Basically, that's conditioning, things that happened with other people and society. And overcoming those we both work with human design to help people see themselves and shift those limiting beliefs that
Yeah.
block me from doing and being the person I really want to be.
Yeah, exactly. And an example of overcoming that conditioning and part of the self-care could be working with you in biofield tuning because that vibration helps to maybe break up some of that underlying subconscious thinking that may run behind the scenes and be in that conditioned state. So there's so many amazing ways, and there's no one way to do self-care. I think that's also based on a person and what lights them up, what feels good to them. But I definitely recommend people to check out your tuning sessions for sure, Sandra.
Thank you, Kristi. So, was there anything else that you wanted to let people know? Is there a message that you want them to take away from this conversation today?
Well, of course, we both would so appreciate it if you would buy a copy of the book if you haven't already, because that book is filled with 25 stories of someone who's discovered human design, how it changed their life. I also have a Facebook community called Kristi's Human Design and Self Care Community on Facebook that you can join. And I just love to stay connected. And thank you so much, Sandra, for having me here today.
It's been really wonderful knowing you and sharing and getting to know more about you. It's like there are so many people who do human design, for example, or, health work or stress management and self care work, but everybody does it a little bit differently. And that's one of the things that I love about human design. So it's like the way you do these things is going to be different from the way that I do these really pretty similar but different ways of doing it. And that is in the chart.
Yes.
The chart is a blueprint for who you are. By the way, we haven't really talked about what human design, what's it based on. Why don't you tell people a little bit about that?
So, for those who don't know, human design is your energy blueprint based on your birth date. And it's actually a blend of astrology, the chakra system, Kabbalah, I Ching. These are all older philosophies, and they were brought together more recently in the last few decades. So, for some, they may be saying, "Why haven't I not heard about this?" Well, human design is a system based on old traditions, and it's really starting to trend right now. So it's very interesting to hear more and more people say, "Oh, I just heard about this." But based on your birth date, it's helpful to know your birth time. I just want to put that out there. Um, and then that birth date, along with 3 months prior, helps to give you the aspects of your chart.
So it's similar to astrology, but a little bit different.
I call it astrology on steroids.
Yes. And I find that astrology and human design complement each other nicely. So the information coming from them, you can see how they fit together, but it's not actually the same. So there are a lot of people who really appreciate having both.
Yes, it's definitely a tool to complement others. It's not the only tool. And I love to say, to learn more about yourself in many different ways, many different systems. It's just great because it's just adding more to sort of your toolbox. And human design is one great tool for that.
I also find that it provides ongoing access to new understanding about myself. I've been doing human design for 12 years and stuff happens in life. And I look at my chart and I have somebody else look at my chart for me. And I was like, oh, that's a new understanding that I didn't have before. That gives me access to living my life in a way that is more satisfying, that enables me to realize, oh, you know what? I'm actually contributing to this person in a way that they really benefit. And only I can do that. So that's the gift of human design. So thank you so much, Kristi, for being here and being interviewed, I get to learn more about you, and our audience gets to learn more about you. So in the comments, there will be information on how to get to everything that Kristi offers and connect with her. See if she might be able to help you live a more full and satisfied life. Turn up the flame, feeding your magic. Breathe.